Welcome to episode 10 of This Week in the Pentecostal Evangel. My name is Lisa Millen, and I'm professor of church history here at AGTS.
My name is Jason Sprinkle, and I work at the Preaching Center.
I'm Rick Wadholm, associate professor of Old Testament.
And I'm Bob Eby, professor of biblical exposition. We have so much fun talking about these really valuable moments in our own Pentecostal journeys. And if you're finding it interesting, or if it's helpful to you, or if you want to join the discussion, one of the best ways to do it is to make sure you like, subscribe, and maybe share our content so that we can keep the dialogue going on this great heritage we share that we read about in the Pentecostal Evangel.
So this week we are looking at the March 3rd, 1948 edition of the Pentecostal Evangel.
March 13th.
March 13th.
Yeah.
What did I say?
March 3rd.
Oh, well, there's a one there. March 13th. Sorry. March 13th. Good thing I got Jason here. So,
Is it?
it is. We need
Okay.
it.
No, that's true.
Okay. So this one, it starts out here. We start to build our new plant.
Right.
And
Yeah.
This is just
I
fascinating
love it.
because the picture here, the architect's sketch of the proposed new home of the Gospel Publishing House and the General Council headquarters on Boonville Avenue. I mean, it looks like a United States post office.
It looks like a giant
government
federal
White
building.
House.
It should be the Pentagon.
It
it
is
should have been the head of the
gigantic.
military.
So I think we'll have a
amazing.
picture here in
Yeah,
there. I'm
yeah,
sure
for
that
sure.
that we will. But
Yeah.
the printing plant will have one floor plus a basement, and excavation work for this unit will be started this month. So this is just so important, right? Our publishing and the publishing that we do from the Gospel Publishing House and all of the materials that come from there. And so, you know, we've got to get our message out and to our people and just think of all the books, right, that get published through GPH. And I thought it was really interesting in the story of a couple of things stuck out to me. This person is talking about how they picked up a copy of the Evangel at a railroad station
right.
some years ago. And I liked the paper and so subscribed, and now, praise God, I have the baptism.
Yeah.
So the idea that this Pentecostal Evangel, it's the Pentecostal good news, right?
yeah.
This is evangelistic in its own sense. So there's so many purposes to the Evangel and so many ways that it functions, and one of those is evangelistic. And I don't know if it's in this episode or a different one. I think it's a different one we're going to talk about later, about increasing the number of subscriptions that your state has. And there's always a push. Get this out. It's evangelistic in nature. And then the second thing that I think is really interesting about this article is this story. We've
I'm so
told
glad
the
you brought
story
this up.
before.
So many times.
So many times.
And we still
About
do.
the woman who brought Pentecost to Springfield in 1906, a Free Methodist sister who had gone to Azusa and received the baptism of the Holy Spirit and brought it back to Springfield. And of course, we know that's how so much of Pentecostalism spreads throughout the United States.
And specifically, I mean, this is the story that gets repeated over and over, right? She had a vision on that plot of land.
Yep.
Right.
That
Yep.
the headquarters was being built on, and we that's what really struck me about this article, right? They're building a new printing plant, a new headquarters building. It never looks like this at all.
No.
Not
And
even
I'm
close.
so saddened by that. I wish we could drive by that building.
And I think it's
now.
incredibly relevant
There's
because
construction going on now. Can we
We're-
get
and
some
it's still not
revisions
gonna
made?
look like
we're
that.
right now remodeling all of headquarters on that same plot of land.
Yep.
And in some ways, this story grounds the reality that our headquarters is on that property is the product of this, this vision.
Sort of prophetic, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It was very much prophetic. But you know, there's actually a big debate about even calling that the headquarters.
It's true.
Historically, I think we refer to it as headquarters.
yeah.
But now, and at different phases in the last even 20 years, there was strong emphasis that
It was the
it's not our
printing
headquarters. But it's also like it's the national office,
The national
not
office,
the
yeah.
headquarters. And that you see that ongoing struggle in the fellowship. Are we institutional? Are we centralized? Are we diffused? Are we congregational? Even in the way we talk about it, and different leaders have talked about it in different ways.
That's true.
And even using I know right now there are certain leaders, and there were recently certain leaders who would have rejected very negatively to calling it the
Headquarters,
headquarters
that's true.
building. Yeah.
Well, and look what's supposed to be here. It would give to Springfield a Pentecostal publishing house, a Pentecostal Bible school, and a Pentecostal assembly. So that Central Assembly would be there, and
Yep.
so
Again, one of the things I wanted to highlight out of this issue is also that article, but maybe a different part. I love this line in there. One day, a Free Methodist minister came to our office and said, "While I was at a conference, one of our preachers introduced me to the Evangel and told me he had gotten more out of it than any other paper, so I subscribed." And then this is the line I love. "I disagreed with everything you wrote about the baptism, but as I have continued to read, I have been convinced that you folk are scriptural in your position and that the baptism in the Spirit should be received today just as it was on the day of Pentecost, speaking in tongues and all." And then he said, "And so I've come to Springfield to seek to receive the baptism, just as you preach it." He received it a few days later and became an Assemblies of God minister. I thought that was a great line. And the thing is, I read the article, and this is what I loved about it. As I was reading it, they're laying out this really aggressive, ambitious plan about what they're going to do and this headquarters they're going to build. And then they were writing about all of these testimonies.
Yeah.
And I kept wondering in the back of my head, is there going to be an ask in this article? And I thought, I feel like they're building it up. They're going to make a financial ask.
And they do.
And sure enough, they did.
And
we need more money to finish this.
Yeah, and that's what really jumped out to me. As they're thinking about building this new publishing plant and all of that, and they're sharing these stories, some of them based in prophecy and Pentecostal history. The way we use narrative continues, right? So it's a story based, right? Based in this historic story, this experience, and then out of that story is an appeal kind of to our emotions, right? To continue this work of the Lord. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but that is very much how we share these things.
and to participate in the story,
right.
right?
Yeah, that's
this
a great
is
point.
Everyone can participate.
And this is how they also make it, and this is a very much our DNA. They said, the Evangel sales, the proceeds from the Evangel have allowed us to underwrite world missions. And that basically they're saying all of the overhead of world missions is so that 100% of the money's donated, and they took a shot at other missions agencies.
Absolutely.
Taking a cut out of donations. And they say the reason we do that and are able to do that is because of the proceeds from the Evangel. Now we're asking you to help the Evangel because we've been helping the task of missions.
What is interesting related to this, now this is 1948, so it's not that far after the war, but in 1917, a copy of the Evangel cost 5 cents. This edition costs 3 cents. So the price has been lowered.
We went down
fairly dramatically.
Yeah.
And now they're thinking, I think we've cut our prices too much. Or, that's I wonder if that's the dialogue behind the scenes.
Boy,
but I
is
found that
interesting.
fascinating.
Yeah.
We went from 5 cents a copy to 3 cents at the in what 30 years or so, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
No wonder they didn't build that building.
They also there's that great picture in here
Right. Yes.
that shows the press right after it was set up, 1918, and you only have 12 people working for what was Gospel Publishing House, and then they note by 1948 there's a couple hundred people plus that are employed as a part of this again like in my term, and maybe some folks won't like this, the mythos. Right. The way we mythologize origin stories, and that becomes like a fountain. I mean, no pun intended.
And that's part of the prophecy.
The prophetic word. But like, it's by prophecy that we exist and do what we do, and it becomes identified. Who are we?
Yeah.
And the stories we tell, the way we tell them. This is our story. One of the things, though, that there was some sort of mission reports, as there normally was. Right. This is March 1948. And there's a number of sort of short testimonials about ministry work going on in Palestine.
Yes.
That's the term that keeps being used.
Interesting.
There is no nation state of Israel.
it doesn't
It's
exist
not
yet.
been-
Right.
It's not officially been
It's still the
recognized.
protectorate under the
And
British.
just asking for prayers and support and consideration that the gospel would go forward in this place. And you just, again, it's like you just get this window into this moment, and you're thinking, what were they going through? They don't know what's ahead. They don't know what awaits the church. They don't, I mean, it's clear from the article. They literally don't know what awaits the church in Palestine.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're less than 3 years after the end of the war.
Yeah.
You know, the war ends later in the year. We're 2.5 years from the end of World War II. Boy, that's fascinating.
And we're
all that's going
building
on.
this giant plant. I mean,
Yeah.
it is just fascinating.
Yeah.
If something
You know
else
what?
to say,
I did
Jason?
think the very back page, not the I guess back cover, but the very back page just gives all of these age-appropriate trainings for our Sunday school workers, for our children's church workers, nursery workers. I don't know how that would have been framed then. How to do personal evangelism, and it just reminded me that, you know, for decades, the Gospel Publishing House pumped out those very practical helps for lay leaders in the church. And some of those I probably used, and they were probably from 1948, but they didn't always update them as well as maybe they could have. But they did get updated. But we consistently produced large quantities of just practical lay leader guides. It just reminded me of, you know, we've tried to equip people from the very beginning.
And then we've got this image, right, of Goliath and or the giants, the giants,
the giants
right?
in the Promised Land.
Yeah, the giants in the Promised Land, and then the little guy who's a grasshopper, and that's just an image that we've always loved as Pentecostals, right? And it gets reinterpreted so many ways, and
There's something about the use of cartoons.
yeah.
And you find this in a lot of the Pentecostal literature for a long time. I mean, even enrichment, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That served for a period as a minister. You know, I always looked for those. Right?
Oh,
Even my
right.
children would look at
Absolutely,
those. They didn't care to read the articles. The little cartoons meant to communicate some sort of biblical, theological message, whether it was right or not. But it just captured the imagination, right? Use of cartoons for gospelizing.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, there's a little thing here about the Alabama sectional councils. I love the fact that we're actually publishing section council information in the national newsletter. And some of the names that are in this that are presbyters and speakers. There's a Loper. That's still an important name down in Alabama.
Later on, Lester Summerall is letting everybody know he's moving to South Bend, Indiana.
That's my home area.
I was going to say, in 1948, this is like a week before you're born.
You're an unpleasant person. You've got Hearst down there. And then the one that really jumped out is the evening speaker is T.H. Spence of the famous Alabamian Spences. So shout out to our friends in Alabama. And as I understand, the proper greeting would be Roll Tide.
Well, on that note, thank you for joining us this week in the Pentecostal Evangel. We're happy to have this conversation with you, and we hope that you'll join us next time. Thanks.